First, this is the research proposal, and the topic was analysis of science textbook at secondary level with regard to art integration learning. Only this topic was given, and I have added few things like NCERT, class 10, and recommendations, plus the pedagogical perspective. Why I added to this, I'll explain. Because this cannot be this has to be specific, made specific, like science textbook. It can be CBSE also. So to make it more specific, I have mentioned that we will be analyzing only the science textbook of NCERT. And since there is no level mentioned, like secondary level it was mentioned, but belong to which class science book will be analyzing, it's the class 10 textbook. And we will be providing the recommendations, okay, for modification of the textbook. And while I said recommendations we will provide, but from which perspective? From learner's perspective or from the teacher's point of view, like teaching perspective. So I have chosen the teaching perspective, like whether the art integration learning is there or not in the science textbook for the teachers to implement. So this is the topic which we have framed at the end, instead of only the simple science textbook and the science textbook at a secondary level, analysis of the science textbook at a secondary level. Next, come to the pedagogical perspective. Pedagogical perspective came after the recommendations. While I have mentioned the term recommendations, I have chosen the teachers as the sample. Why? Because the students won't be able to analyze it, okay. And from the students' perspective, it has already been framed by the experts. Modification of the science textbook has been done plenty of times by the experts, and we are not going to delve into it, okay. What we are going to check is from the point of view of the teachers. Like we are going to take the sample of the teachers, and everything will be done by the teachers. And since we will be taking the teacher as the sample, now you might say that first, what was there in our mind, that we will be doing it. We will be doing it means you might be thinking that the researcher will be doing it, and researcher will will analyze the science textbook. No, that is completely wrong. Why the researcher cannot analyze the textbook? Because the researcher, there is a methodology, right? So the researcher cannot be biased and become the sample of the study, okay. Sample has to, the researcher will only be the medium. He will only check what they are doing, what answers they are giving. He cannot himself be the sample. Why? Because it will give a biased result, okay. Without being biased, he will take the teachers as a sample, and teachers will be doing all the work for the researcher. Like they will analyze the science textbook, they will analyze whether art integration of learning is taking place. All these things the researcher will uh, mention to us, okay. And for that, what we have done, we have taken a tool. We will be taking two tools. Like one is the checklist we will be preparing, and the other is the perception scale of the teachers. In a checklist, what we will be doing, we will use indicators related to AIL. Like those indicators, the teachers will check if those indicators are present in that textbook or not. And for that, while they are giving the answers, those raw data will be calculated later on by the researcher in the form of percentage, Okay. Next will be the perception of the teachers, that we will check with the help of a perception scale. And in that perception scale, we will do the comparative analysis of the male and female teachers, private and government teachers, urban and rural teachers. We will do the comparison because there might be a difference in the male perception or the female perception of the teachers, private teachers or the government teachers, urban teachers or the rural teachers. Okay, so we have now discussed about the tools what we will be using, the recommendations, who will be giving the recommendations, that is the teachers, and the samples, we are considering the teacher as the sample. Now, when we go to the hypothesis, this is the introduction which we have written. Here I have mentioned, in introduction actually we have to mention the background. Okay, so I have given the background little bit, the meaning and concept of the art integrated learning. And art integrated learning for science subject, I have made it specific at secondary level, class 10 NCERT. I have mentioned a little bit, and this is just an example of how the science book has should contain the concept, whether these concepts are well explained or not related to art integrated learning, how it can be done. Okay, now this is the operational definitions of the terms. Operational definitions of the terms means the terms which will often be used in our research, like science textbook NCERT. From this, see, science textbook NCERT, it has its own term, but how we are using this science textbook in this study, that we have to mention over here. Art integrated learning, what thing we are using in this research, that we have to mention. Pedagogical perspective, we know that pedagogical perspective means the methodology of teaching, but what we are using, what pedagogical perspective we are using, that is the science education at the secondary level we are using, so we have to mention that. Okay, analysis, what analysis we are doing? We are analyzing the science textbook. We are not analyzing something else. Okay, so that and recommendation for further improvement, and what improvement will be done in the, and what improvement are needed to be done in the science textbook, that will be implemented. So these are the definitions, okay, from the research perspective of this research. Okay, now we have framed the objectives like see, objectives like the conceptual study we will be doing. Okay, conceptual study of to explore the existing literature, we will explore the entire literature. So we will going to the Google search, Google search, Google Scholar. Basically I mostly use the Google Scholar, and we will be typing the topic and the very recent year topics we will be using. 2023 basically, we search for that, the recent, and if we don't find, then we will go for the other years as well. And in this literature, studies done in abroad is not required because it is not prevalent. It's not correlated to our studies. So basically we will focus studies done in India. Then we will do critical analysis of the content, like we will be doing the analysis of the review as well, and plus the analysis of the science textbook. Science textbook we will be doing the analysis based upon the checklist, based upon the perception scale. And another objective we will be taking is that the standardization of the tools, that is the checklist and the perception scale. We just can't use the perception scale or the checklist. We cannot just make a few sentences and make a checklist and then check it. We have to standardize it. There is a process, and we will be standardizing it with the help of the researcher, with the help of certain techniques. We'll find out the validity and reliability of the tool. So that also stands out to be one of the objective. Okay, and next we will be uh, doing the perception scale. Okay, then we in the perception scale we will be finding out the significant difference between the male and the female teachers, the private and the government school teachers, and urban and rural teachers. And why we are using this, why we are doing this, uh, it's been mentioned plenty of times down in the study. We can just go through it and then find it out. Then next is the recommendations. Based on the findings of the study, the sample will provide, that is the teachers will recommend few things as to how art integration of learning can be implemented in the science textbook. Now the research questions. So based upon these objectives, few objectives what we are doing, we are framing. Among these, we are looking at it from the preparation of the research proposal. If we look into it, like few of the objectives we are writing as research questions and few as the hypothesis. Why? Because the objectives which we will do the qualitative analysis, we are framing it in the form of the research questions. Okay, and the objectives which we will be doing in the form of quantitative analysis, those we are framing it in the form of hypothesis. Next comes the delimitations of the study. The delimitations means the fencing of the study. Plenty of times I have told you, delimitations of the study is making the study more specific. We just can't delve into a very broader perspective. Don't think yourself to be Abdul Kalam and going to explore going to do very big things and exploring very huge thing. You'll be nowhere. Okay, because it's just a sea, like samundar hai. So you cannot do. Take a small area, be specific to it, fence around it, and do the research and go depth into it, go deep into it. Okay, so we have fenced around what we have fenced around our entire study, analysis of the science textbook, entire study. We are not going to find the perspective of the students. What we have fenced around, we have fenced around the teachers only, and they are whether they are finding a room for teaching or integrating art integration learning in their science textbook, whether they are able to uh, teach the concepts with the help of in the form of cartoons or in the form of art play, whether there is room in the textbook or not. They are going to give us the perspective of it. Now we are not taking, again we have fenced around the science textbook of NCERT class 10 only. So we cannot analyze so many textbooks. We can analyze, but it will take our entire life. So to be specific, we have chosen only the science textbook and science textbook of NCERT, not the CBSEs, and of class 10 only. And next, the study will be limited to the pedagogical approach of art integration learning only. There might be different integration, like like art only. Sometimes it may be, or STEM education integration, like that. But here we are taking the approach of art integration learning only. So we have fenced around art integrated learning. And we will be taking a sample of 300 teachers only, because I think 300 is enough for a study to be valid. Now we will be taking three categories. Three categories means three groups. That is, groups means strata. In research term, we call groups as the strata. So we'll be taking three categories, that is government and private teachers, male and female teachers, and urban and rural teachers. and we will be focusing the study only on the location of Delhi only, because it will be easier for us to collect the sample. Okay, teachers will be very easily familiar. So if you want to change the location, you can change also, no issues. Now the variables. Dependent variables means two variables we will be discussing on, independent variable and the dependent variable. Independent variable means it doesn't get affected if the male perception is different to the female, it has no difference. Okay, like it will make no difference, it will not impact each other, like government impact and private impact. No, there will in between both of them there will be no impact. Urban and rural, there will be no impact between each of the scores. Okay, so it is a dependent variable. Now independent variable, sorry. Dependent variable means it will have an impact, like if based on gender, if male and female teachers perception are being changed, their entire perception will change. So the perception itself is a dependent variable. Now, art integration learning, this concept itself is a dependent variable. Why? Because instead of art, if we put it STEM, then they will have a different idea, different form. So it is dependent. So dependent variable is always dependent on the independent variable. Okay. Now next come to the significance of the study. The significance of the study is the importance of the study. Why this study is important for the future. So importance you have to write. Now the review of related literature. This review of related literature means the studies which are being done by other researchers. Now, there are many methods as to how to write the review of related literature. I am not going to delve into it. Very brief, I'll give you, is that you have to write it in an APA style, that is the most accepted style, and where the title is written in short form, and the title is written and the name is written in the short form, and the year is given, and we put it in a sequence, like you can write from in an ascending order of the year or descending order of the year. And review of related literature, I mostly collect from Google Scholar. Google Scholar, there if we search the topic, there we will be getting the recent papers, where from we will be collecting the summary. We will abstract the summary and write it in our own language. We'll concise it and write it in our own language, the abstract, and collect it as a review of related literature as to how actually it's not possible to collect all the review of related literature, but at least in research proposal we have given very less, but in our study we will be exploring plenty, like 30 to 40 review of related literature related to the topic. Like it can be anything: art integrated learning, it can be related to the science textbooks, it can be related to how teaching of like teaching pedagogies, like teaching of sciences. So related to the topic, we can collect plenty of review of related literature. It should be around 30 to 40. But here we are mentioning very few. And this is the citation of the study. We can use these thing as the citation of the study later on. And one thing I want to mention, citation and references. See, we can write the citation. Citation can be references, but references cannot be citation. Might not be citation. Like citation can be references, but references might not be citations. How? Like citation is the studies which you will be using in this study. You will be using in this research. And references are the books which you will be just studying. You will not be using this, because while doing this research you have to go through plenty of studies, plenty of materials. All of them you cannot mention in this, because few you will require and few will not require. The things which you will not require, you can mention it in the references section. The books which you have studied, but which is related to the topic, but it's not included in the study, those you can mention in the references. Now come to the research gap. Research gap means like these review of related literature. After going through the review of related literature, all these researchers will be having certain gaps. So we have to collect those gaps. These research gaps means the gaps which each research has in their study, and there has to be a gap. Even if we will do, no matter how far, how good we will be doing, there has to be a gap, and it's good. You don't have to panic for that. Why good? Because it will provide a room for other researchers, other new researchers to explore in that field, to do more further extensive study up to what you have done, and beyond that they will have a room to do their own study, and that we will mention in, we will find out the research gap and then we will mention it in the recommendations for further study. We'll provide recommendations to the other new researchers. Now expected outcome here, we are just expecting that these things will be happening in our research, because this is just a research proposal, and we have not started our study. We are just preparing a framework, a blueprint of our study, and we are expecting that certain outcome will come. Okay, so we will be doing the conceptual study, and we will be analyzing the textbook, we will be assessing the tools, we'll finding out the teachers' perceptions, and we'll find the research gap and recommend for further improvement of the textbook. And we will be doing the quantitative analysis of the hypothesis, and qualitative as well, quantitative as well as the quantitative, and contribution to the field of the study, what contribution we will be doing to this field. And at last we have mentioned the methodology of the study. This you can mention before also, but I chose to mention at the end because this is the most required thing I found in this research proposal, because this won't mess up the things. So methodology, like what method designs we will be using. We'll be using the mixed method because we'll be using the qualitative approach as well, the quantitative approach as well. So we will be doing a mixed method kind of. And research method is the qualitative approach and the quantitative approach. And location of the area of the study, we will be taking Delhi as the area of the study. Sources of this data, we will be collecting two form of data, that is the primary source and the secondary sources. The primary source is that we will be distributing the questionnaire in the form of questionnaire, that is the perception scale, and the checklist, that is the first hand experiences which the researcher will conduct. That is the primary source. And secondary source, the books which you will be reading, and the review of related literature and all of the materials which you are collecting, that is the secondary source of data. Next, the population. Population, that is the entire teachers of secondary school teachers of Delhi. Okay, we'll be considering them as the population, and only the 300 teachers will be our sample from that population. And to choose those 300, we will be doing sampling techniques. Sampling techniques, we will be doing random sampling technique, but here I'm saying that stratified random sampling. Why? Because stratified means because we are doing the random sampling from the strata, that is the groups, like male and female. From male we will be choosing around 50, and female we will be choosing 50. Urban we will be choosing randomly 50. So we are choosing randomly from the groups. So that is why I'm saying it's a random sampling, stratified random sampling technique. Now tools, what we will be using, we will be using the perception scale and the checklist. And what procedure we will be collecting? We will be collecting through the data through the survey method. We might use a electronic way of method, that is the Google form, but I'm not sure. We might use the the physical form, like the researcher will be going to the school to collect it, data from the questionnaire itself, because it gives a more intimate touch to conduct the research. And next is the textbook observation. We'll provide the textbook and textbook of the science, like I'll collect only from the students and then provide it to the teachers, and to do the observation whether art integrated learning is there or not in the science textbook. Next, procedure of collecting data is that we'll do the quantitative analysis, and while doing the quantitative analysis of the hypothesis, we'll be doing the t-test. Why t-test? Because we'll be comparing between two variables, like male and female, urban, rural, private, government. So we are using the t-test. And next, we will, while in the qualitative analysis, we will be doing the thematic analysis. Next is the findings. For the findings, we will illustrate all the materials which are being found in the textbook. We'll mention it. And for quantitative analysis, all the analysis will be done statistically. We might use softwares. If we use the software, then SPSS tool, we will mention it. And or we will use statistical formulas for doing it, and we will conclude. So this is what the research proposal is, and this is just a framework, the blueprint, and in further study there is lot more to go. And we will prepare the tool, we will find out the entire data, we will do the collection of data, we'll do the findings, then conclusions, and all the stuff will be there. Thank you.